Thank you for joining. I'm excited to talk to you about the near future of advertising and the importance of advertising with Microsoft. While we are talking about the near future, we are actually already in the near future, and we want to make sure that you have the right strategies in place to meet your customers where they are at in their buying journey today. And it's not always just where we may assume they are at today. So I'm Kelly Thomas Nojaim, and I run the Microsoft Ads corporate sales team in North America. And I have my colleague here, Milton Reis, who will be sharing retail-specific insights in a bit to help you get ready for the holiday season at this unprecedented time. Right. So Microsoft advertising is not just Bing.com. It's not just search. We are search plus native. The Microsoft Audience Network is our native solution that leverages Microsoft's unique data about its users and their intent signals. And when we invested in native, actually, could we move to the next slide? Yep. And when we invested in native, not only did we extend advertisers' reach, but we improved advertisers' results. We found that when you are running both the search and audience networks side by side, we see a 37% lift in searches post-exposure and a 47% lift in clicks post-exposure. And the reasons for the great results, well, the Microsoft Audience Network is powered by Microsoft Audience Data, AI, and machine learning to guide audience segmentation, engagement prediction, personalized offer selection, and ROI management, all to help deliver a better return on investment. Next slide, please. These are the 4 audience marketing solutions that we offer at Microsoft Advertising. The first and the one you're most familiar with is search, or Bing.com. And the second is the one I just talked about, our Microsoft Audience Network, which is similar to the Facebook Ad Network and GDN. And our third offering here is with Promote IQ. It's a recent acquisition, and we are focused on further expanding opportunities for advertisers with new vertical solutions, starting with Promote IQ, specifically with retail to help merchants create new revenue streams. And lastly, we continue to expand our ad capabilities with AI technology that improves your ad performance and efficiencies, allowing you to reach your customer wherever they are at. Next slide. The Microsoft advertising in general, we have audience targeting options available for everyone, whether you bring the data or we bring the data, whether you create the audience list or Microsoft Advertising creates the audience list, or whether you've tagged your website or not. We offer basic targeting features to more advanced audience intelligence targeting, leveraging AI technology and unique signals from the Microsoft Advertising Graph. What's unique to the Microsoft Search Network is our LinkedIn profile targeting. You can target users based on their company, industry, or job function. And we even have a workaround for company size. And we are the only ad platform outside of LinkedIn to offer LinkedIn profile targeting. So just to clarify here, ads show up on the Microsoft Search Network, SERP, or the Microsoft Audience Network. They're not showing up on the LinkedIn feed. However, we are leveraging that data from LinkedIn to help you better target your audience. Next slide. So globally, the Microsoft Search Network enjoys double-digit PC search share in half a dozen markets. In the US, 1 in 3 PC searches is conducted on Bing. And with many people working now from home or learning from home this fall, people are spending much more time on their laptops than they had pre-COVID. Next slide. So our search share across devices has grown to 20%, or 1 in 5 searches across devices is happening on Bing. 1 out of 3 searches on a PC are on Bing, which equates to 37% PC search share. So the Bing search bar is built into Windows 10, which has just reached the 1 billion device milestone. That is 1 billion people accessing Bing through their PCs, phones, tablets, and TVs. Bing also powers Microsoft Search that helps users of Office, SharePoint, and Microsoft Edge to search using Bing. And I am sure you've seen a few other devices and platforms that you might not expect. Yes, that's Amazon, iOS, and Android. Bing is available on iOS and Android through first-party apps like Microsoft Edge. And Bing is the default search engine on Amazon Kindle's native browser and image search for Siri across Apple devices. Moving on to the next slide. So we have about 30 partners in our network. Here are some examples. Since last March, we get 100% of traffic from Verizon Media, which includes their partners such as Forbes and WebMD. And their sites join forces with us with partners like Wall Street Journal and CBS Interactive to provide high quality traffic from trusted sources. Next slide. Not only are we creating more customer connections, but we are reaching a diverse audience that will enable you to find your ideal customer. Half of our audience is under the age of 45, and we are split almost evenly male and female. 46% are married and 35% are college graduates. Additionally, we reach a higher income user with 22% of the Microsoft Search Network audience with a household income of $85,000 or more. Moving on. For those who aren't familiar with the Microsoft Search Network, you may find some of these stats helpful as you work to locate where your customers are today. So with the Microsoft Search Network, you can reach millions of PC searches that can't be reached on other sites. 29% of the clicks that we get come from searches that are unique to the Microsoft Search Network. And 18% of the monthly searches we get are brand new searches, never been searched on. So it pays to have the Microsoft Search Network as part of your search campaign, because if you aren't on the Microsoft Search Network, you're missing out on incremental reach and revenue for your business. Moving on. And regardless of the campaign, this is an audience that engages with Microsoft advertising across industries. You'll note here that we have a substantial share of paid clicks across categories. So if you look at technology, business, finance, and health, all have almost or over half of the clicks coming from the Microsoft Search Network. I'm now going to pass things off to my colleague, Milton Reis, who will take us through those retail-specific strategies and insights for this unique holiday season. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. And hello to everyone who has joined. Thank you, NetElixir, for having us, and hello to our clients and our future clients. What I wanted to do was pull together some insights on what we can expect during this holiday season. Not only insights, but what we're projecting and what we're thinking about as we're going into the holiday season from a product perspective, the ability of taking on shopping and audiences, and also the peak days and the outside of the days that we typically talk about, like Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Before we do that, though, I do want to talk a little bit about the impact in the of COVID in the economy. So if we can go over to the next slide. Outside of digital and outside of e-commerce, something that has been expected is really some of these categories or verticals to kind of really decrease. So when we look at apparel and accessories, auto and parts, and so on, these are expected to decrease all up. However, on the next slide, we can see that from a digital perspective, some of these are actually quite reverse, and we're seeing an expected increase in e-commerce sales. And so I would ask that if anyone's kind of thinking about how should we plan for the holiday, thinking about e-commerce and digital all up in the different media types, you really evaluate the opportunity, the competitive landscape, but also just thinking about the growth that we're seeing from different engines and different media types. On the next slide, I wanted to share just kind of some high-level information about previous, things that have happened in the past. And so in this example here, you can see that during the financial crisis, consumers reported that they would spend 29% less than what they actually did. And it was actually 4.7%. So just because we're in the holiday season, you're expecting it to be really different. It won't be as different as you have thought it to be or could potentially be. There are for sure some decreases that we can expect, which we'll talk about, but it won't be as much as consumers are saying that they think it to be. And to kind of back up on that, on the next slide, we can see that during COVID, the US retail search volume and CPCs have changed. So the search volume in and of itself has for sure increased. The CPCs have decreased, and this is dependent of advertisers either slowing down or ramping back up and kind of going through an unprecedented time. But what's most interesting is the way that people are searching and how that's different. So desktop and tablet and volume has completely changed. For us specifically, 8 to 18% increase in desktop. If you don't have a desktop specific idea of how you're running your campaigns and you're focused on mobile or just one or the other, really think about those going into the holiday season, because we are seeing these lifts happening all up. And really differentiate the difference between the engines, because our engine or other platforms may be a little bit different. We're an operating system for Windows, and we have a heavy desktop volume, which Kelly mentioned. And so you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that going into the holiday season. Weekend volume has been really different for us as well. 12% increase in weekend volume during COVID. And that's two times more than we were seeing during the weekday. So I know a lot of advertisers tend to kind of slow down during the weekend, or have some bid modifiers there. Check on those. It's really important to know that the current landscape of how consumers are searching is very, very different. And on the next piece here, non-business hours. Oh, sorry, if we could just go back to that last slide. On the non-business hours, this is really something that's different. Searches are really happening from that 9 a.m. to the 5 p.m. But we're seeing that 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. range has absolutely changed. And we're seeing an 11% increase there. So while you may have modifiers throughout your campaigns, check on those, because these are important and relevant to how searchers and consumers are currently looking for products and businesses. Next slide now. I wanted to talk a little bit about the global economy in terms of different media types. And here we have search ads, display ads, TV ads, and out of home. If your investment has really slowed down in search, but not in others, when we look at some of the data through third party, but also our own, you can see here that search is actually projected to take the smallest hit. So investing in search is extremely important, but having a multi-touch opportunity to connect and all of the different media types is equally as important. On the next slide, we can see when you think about offline or online or offline inline, when you have that connectivity of your different campaigns or your different media types, offline and online, we're seeing a 45% lift in the behavior from consumers, because searches typically tend to be on the search site tend to be the last place that consumers are converting towards. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. As Kelly mentioned, if we go to the next slide, the Microsoft Audience Network or advertising platform is much bigger than just search. We do have a native offering, which we've been offering to clients for the last maybe two years. And when you run them together in a cohesive strategy and a brand messaging, you're connecting to the consumer where they are, not just where you think they are. And so you can see here a 22% post-exposure domain visitation rate, but also when you're running both of them together, you see 188% increase versus just search, or 133% increase versus just MSAN, which stands for the Microsoft Audience Network, also known as our native offering. In the next slide, search is often the last channel that people reach before making a decision. So I mentioned this before. Thinking about your media types and how you're investing is crucial going into the holiday. And we'll talk about the days that are really important. But searches happening or consumers who are searching for products and services, the consumer journey is very different here. So when you're looking at other platforms like social and video, search is just dominating currently. And we saw that earlier, where we saw that search would be the least hit in investment going into the holiday season. So think about this. I added just a few different verticals here. And throughout the slides, you'll notice that there are vertical specifics. If there are any questions that you have on the vertical that pertains to you, the NetElixir team is great about getting those insights from us, and we work very closely with them. So happy to provide on that. I also added a little side section to each slide. So if you're ever just wondering additional information or need a quick little snapshot, just feel free to take that from there. But please note that a lot of these, we're going in and out of different verticals and categories to kind of help out. Okay, let's talk about the good stuff on the next slide, which is the key dates that are most important. I've been at Microsoft for 5 years, and one of the things that I typically see is everyone ramps up on Black Friday and everyone ramps up on Cyber Monday, and they do it that week, that day, and they have those campaigns ready to go live. However, when you typically see here in this early shopper journey, October is actually when the holiday season starts. It's not as heavy as Black Friday or Cyber Monday, but you can see that it slowly starts to kind of peek through. So be really informative about what you want to do with your campaigns, either with your agency NetElixir or with your team internally, about how you want to communicate what are we going to do for the early holiday, the Black Friday, the Cyber Monday, and most importantly, those peak days that a lot of advertisers tend to just completely shut off on. We can see that in the next slide, which we call out here. We have our Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and expected peak search days. So this is from data that we collected from last year and what we saw and what we thought advertisers could have invested more in. For sure, by now you're thinking about the two key holidays, but really, what about these red dots here, which are the peak days that we're talking about? These are crucial days for you to also have investments and think about strategies that capture the users after those days. And interestingly enough, on the next slide, we can see that those in-between days and those Sundays are expected to grow this year by 18%, 13%, and for Thanksgiving, 15%. What's also interesting is 20% increase in terms of the expectations for the big weekend. But for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, we've seen Cyber Monday kind of continue to grow. But in this upcoming period, we're expecting it to be tied with Black Friday. And really having the difference of the campaigns there are going to be extremely beneficial. So what do I mean by that? On the next slide, you can see here that the journey of how people are searching for holiday on Black Friday and Cyber Monday are very different. If you're just thinking about Black Friday and having it in that one, those last few days, that's great. You're investing there. We know that that's going to happen. But look at this light blue line. It starts so early. It starts as early as October. And I think Bob also mentioned that early, late August kind of going in. Taking advantage of this peak opportunity is crucial and really, really important. What I also see not happen a lot is, we shut off the Black Friday campaign, we turn on the Cyber Monday campaign. Those two should be cohesive. They should connect with one another, and they should definitely connect to a consumer journey where you're thinking about running one into the other, because those searches do continue on, and you can see the line item going through there. For Cyber Monday, I noticed a lot of campaigns that will just immediately start at that midnight range and then just die off towards the end. Continue to run that a few days earlier in those small business Saturday and also on the Sunday as well. Those are crucial regardless of the opportunity that you can see in these peaks. There is a lot of searches that are happening for the holiday season on those. Those are peak periods that we caught from last year that we thought advertisers could have absolutely invested more of their budgets in their time. But we'll talk a little bit more about what exactly those budgets should be. So here, something that we covered is BOPUS, and that I heard in the previous mention as well. This is really, really important. So BOPUS shoppers, and BOPUS stands for Buy Online, Pick Up in Store. This has been an increase of the activity that we're seeing in terms of searches for during COVID. It's been interesting. 82% of the BOPUS shoppers are instant converters. What does this mean? If they're looking and they have that type of search type activity, they will convert. They're looking for it immediately. I think one of the questions asked a little bit about, how immediate should it be? It should be immediate with BOPUS. Again, BOPUS stands for Buy Online, Pick Up in Store. When we're looking at some of the categories that are really important for this, women's clothing, men's clothing, furniture, and any home and garden is actually something that we would suggest. And last year during the holiday, 60% of retailers had implemented a strategy for BOPUS specifically. On the next slide, you can see here that during the last holiday season, we saw an increase of 11.7% of users who ended their retail journey on a BOPUS-like page. During COVID, that has already jumped to 16.4%. So you can expect that this will, for sure, reach 20 to 22 to 23% in the holiday as a prediction from us. So how do you tie this in with your retailers? How do we think about it for ourselves? How do we build campaigns around it? Taking those peak days, those opportunities, and really getting inclusive of all of these different strategies. We need to meet the consumer where they are, not just where we think they're going to be. So if you're just running social or you're just running on another platform, making sure that you're meeting all consumers and inclusive of where everyone is searching is important, because that search activity has completely changed changed during this time. So if we go to the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about the retailer's spend over time. And so this is really interesting. A study shows internally for us that 33% of annual spend occurs during the holiday season. So what does this mean? And what am I suggesting here? The way that you're thinking about your media types, or the way that you're thinking about the holiday season, how are you allocating your budget between different media types, our search engine, other search engines, but most importantly, that peak holiday season? Think about this 33% number. These are heavy, there are obviously heavy searches that are happening and increasing year over year. And making sure that you're ready to take on all of these consumers is mutually beneficial for yourself, but also meeting the right consumers and new consumers. As Kelly mentioned, 18% of the searches that are happening on our engine are net new queries. And so taking advantage of that is crucial. In the retail year over year period here on the bottom of the slide, mobile for us, we're expecting a 5.7% increase. Shopping ads. Shopping ads are something that if you're not running, or you're just running, you're just testing, or you're getting familiar with, right now is the time to heavily invest in making sure that your shopping activity and your campaigns are effective, that they're running smoothly, that they're connecting to your feeds, and really taking advantage of it, because we do predict that about 10% will be all shopping during the holiday season. And CPCs, while we did notice during COVID, have decreased a little bit. Those for sure will increase a little bit during the holiday season, as they always do. But we are expecting them not to be as expensive as they were last year, due to just big retailers kind of not doing Black Friday or heavily investing in Black Friday in store. So think about that and that 33% number. What does that mean for you? I know NetElixir is really great about looking at forecasting, and we usually help with that from our perspective. And reaching out to them and asking for any of that for your accounts would be something that we can absolutely help with. On the next slide, there's a lot here, and you're probably thinking, what am I supposed to look at? So I just want to direct your attention to the bottom right-hand corner. You can see here that the way that we're breaking down this graph is what's high opportunity, what are high volume, low CPCs, what is high CPCs, high volume, really what are the top 5 categories by search volume. And so this is just an example. And again, we can absolutely get some additional insights that are tailored to your specific business. But this is a great question to ask your representatives, right? How are we doing in terms of the CPCs of our vertical on all of these platforms? And what does the volume look like? Is it going to be more competitive, less competitive? Should we think about higher bids, lower bids? The landscape is completely changing, and I think it's an opportune time to take advantage of some of these. So if you're in these top 5 categories, I would say this is a great opportunity now to invest in starting the holiday season as soon as possible. And the next slide talks a little bit about timing the opportunities. If there's anything that you kind of take away from our presentation and really focusing on opportunity, is holidays are not just Black Friday, they're not just Cyber Monday, they are a trend that it happens throughout those 3 months, and how inclusive you are of all of those different types of days and kind of getting in the nitty-gritty of the search peaks, you'll definitely make out well during the holiday season. I'd say this is a very specific example. This is for apparel. As I looked at the rest of the data, they were definitely, it was very similar, but for apparel specifically, you can see that there are opportunity periods and risk periods. I see a lot of advertisers really focus on the risk periods, and those tend to be the higher CPCs. But if you look here for apparel specifically, there were 5 days that there could have been so much more opportunity with low CPCs, great traction for new clients that weren't taken as much advantage of last year as we would have expected. Same thing for 1/2 to 1/15. I know we think, New Year and kind of the holidays are over. There's still a last bit that you can take some opportunity from, and those 14 days are really, really important. Again, this is apparel. We have many different verticals and different categories, but we're happy to pull any insights that are needed from the NetElixir team as we work together for your specific categories. And just closing us out, I wanted to just kind of summarize all of the different things that we talked about. Kelly mentioned the 35% market share that we have in desktop in the US. The online landscape has completely changed. So activating a cross-channel strategy to meet your customers where they are, not just where you want them to be. So really ask yourself, where am I running, and am I activating against all of these consumers that the different platforms have? The holiday starts as early as October, so 33% of retailers' annual spend happens from October through December. Don't forget that period in January, because I think that those days are really, really important, and you can really maximize and take advantage of some of the competitors in your own space if they're not doing it again this year in that element. The consumer journey looks very, very different with the increased BOPUS activity. Again, BOPUS stands for buy online, pick up in store. And we do have, products and opportunities and suggestions for those, which you can see on our Microsoft advertising site. And last, Kelly touched on this, and I kind of briefed through it. Audience targeting is key. So in-market audiences or custom audiences, remarketing, also known as RLSA, all of these opportunities to kind of really target to your consumer will make you stronger. And doing those now will get you the consumers that will convert during the actual holiday period. Those lists are really important to capture the cookie sets that you want to kind of chase on to get converters. So take advantage of that. And shopping ads, 10% is predicted to be all shopping ads. So please, if you do have that capability, work with your teams to identify what you need, how we need it, and what suggestions they have to kind of make them more efficient, because it is a little bit trickier than typical search, but the opportunity is surely there. So that's what we had from a Microsoft perspective. We wanted to give you a little bit of context on our engine, who we are, how we're growing, our native offering, but also just walk through the opportune times, but also the peak days that we're expecting that you can take advantage of. I hope it was beneficial, and I will kick it back to the team.
Thanks, Milton, and also thank you, Kelly, for taking the time to speak with us and providing a lot of these insights and information. I think some of the information that you shared, some of the key dates, is going to be very crucial for a lot of retailers, ranging again from the small businesses to the mid-market to the enterprise businesses as well, and then also some of those trends that you guys are seeing. I know this is big on the Google side. It's going to be big on the Microsoft side as well. So really, from our team, we appreciate you guys taking the time to pull a lot of that information. We did get a couple questions, but before I jump into them real quick, I will ask, guys, we are running a little bit early, so if you guys have more questions, we've got about 3 or 4 here that we could kick off with. But anyone in the comments or the questions area, feel free to jump in. So Milton, I'll start with question 1, and you touched base on this a little bit in terms of the key audience that Microsoft focuses on, but are there any categories for which Microsoft advertising does better than some of the other channels per se?
Yeah, I mean, and by categories, you mean verticals?
Yep.
Yeah, so Kelly had a really good slide. If anyone, whoever asked the question, if you wanted to go back to that slide and kind of look at all of them, but I'd say there are verticals that we over-index on. I believe health was one of them, business, technology, health being 55% for desktop specifically. Like, that's really, really high. And, sometimes we kind of go back to the demographic that she mentioned, right? We're 50% are over the age of 45 and 50% under the age of 45. So a lot of this stuff does tie in. I'd say not really vertical specific, but from a partner network is a big differentiator for us. It has a lot of transparency in how we perform in our partners. And so I think that you can kind of plug in to see how certain things are performing for the partner network. So again, not the partner network, not really category specific, but it gives you more transparency to see how that's performing against all of the different verticals all up.
That's helpful. I know we have a lot of the UPS folks on here, and healthcare is a big focus for them. So it's a great piece of information that they could bring to their clients as well. Question 2. So what are some of the noticeable changes in consumer behavior on the Microsoft platforms that can have an impact on retail holiday strategies?
Yeah, I mean, that's $1 million question. I think as I was preparing for this and how I pulled some insights, the biggest thing that I'm seeing is just and it may not be so shocking or surprising, but that activity of how things are happening or searches are happening online is very, very different. So the suggestions that we were making last year of like looking at the time of day and desktop and weekend, that stuff is really, really important. But if you have historical information or campaigns that are set up that way, now is a great time to look at that or kind of reset that for the next 2-3 weeks to really optimize for what's happening, because the trends are different. For example, if you're bidding up on 100% mobile and bidding down for desktop, we're seeing that these trends for the weekend volume in desktop are increasing. The time of day is increasing, going from that 5 p.m. range to the 5 a.m. range. So you're kind of neglecting a lot of that traffic because of those settings that you have within your campaigns. The ecosystem of search is very, very different right now, and paying attention to that is really important. And I'd say too, just paying attention, I guess, to your earlier question about the categories and the verticals. Home and garden, if you are in home and garden and that is your business or within that vertical, now it's your spotlight. Like, this is increasing tremendously. It's been one of our biggest verticals during COVID, and I would absolutely suggest that you kind of keep trend there with search query reporting and shopping ads and taking advantage of the what's happening.
Awesome. Appreciate that. And then one last question for you, Milton. Let's see. So any insights on the effect of advertising during National Election Week or month, or even just the upcoming election in general?
Yeah. There isn't, I mean, from a political perspective, we don't have any advertising that kind of goes into that range. But I'd love to dig a little bit more into that question. So if we can connect with that user, if they're trying to maybe build a specific strategy or something that around there, or specific key terms, but politically, it's not something that we allow unless there's that certification that I believe all platforms have you go through. Okay.
Appreciate pulling a little bit. And then same question that I asked over to Bob at Google before, just in the SMB market, is does Microsoft have any point of views for SMBs on how they can compete with the big box retailers during the holiday season?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the year for SMBs to compete with big box retailers. Like, there is just a lot that's happening from the increase in search activity. Just taking advantage of the new search queries that are happening. Kelly mentioned that 18% of new searches are happening on our platform. It's really about who can get there quicker. I talked a little bit about those opportunity periods and the risk periods. I'd say look at your vertical, look at your category, and identify what those are, because historical patterns really look at those even with the big retailers. But going into COVID, or into the holiday during this COVID period, taking advantage of those when no one was taking advantage of it in the past could be a big differentiator for SMBs. So, the Black Friday, the Cyber Monday, the end of December, those are periods that are risk periods because they're heavy investment in competitors. But looking at the opportunity periods where everything kind of slows down, that's the time for SMB businesses to kind of take advantage of and really ramp up, where it may be easier to compete at a better cost.
Awesome. Really appreciate all the insights. That was the last question, Milton. So again, the team at NetElixir and everyone that is attending, we appreciate you guys taking the time to speak with us. We know it's a crazy time in the advertising space. But there's one more slide that I'm going to transition into. I know that you and the team at Microsoft are going to be involved with that. But again, thank you again, Milton. Thank you again, Kelly. We look forward to working closely with you guys as well.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you very much for having us. We really appreciate it, and it's been great. I can't wait to see the rest of the content.
Thanks, Milton. Awesome. So to everyone on this call, this is a big conference. To everyone on this conference, we do have a very special offer that both Google and Microsoft have put in play for us. And you should see up on your screen a special offer for what we call our holiday blueprint. Once again, we're very thankful for the partnership between Google and Microsoft, and what they've offered was 20 total one-on-one consultations with retailers that are joining us today. To our current clients that are already working with us, there's no need to jump in and register for these. Your account leads will reach out to you and accordingly. But there is limited space to this, so if you are interested in these holiday blueprints or these holiday workshops with our team, with the Google team and the Microsoft team, just go on down to netelixir.com/holidays. You can definitely throw some of your information in there. Someone from our team will reach out to you to schedule some of that time. And it gets really into understanding your business and how we could help support, and how could the Google and Microsoft team come in and support you to ensure that you're ready for success this season and leading into Q1 as well for next year. So that wraps up this session. We are ending about 5 minutes early, but before I transition into the new session, I'm going to throw up we're going to throw up some slides to give you some holiday insights that our team was able to put together. And then from there, we will jump into a presentation with you, Dane, again.